What's up, guys? So I'm glad you made it this far, and I just want to go over a couple of things. First of all, congratulations on taking this big step and leap into getting healthier, finally understanding how to be the most sustainable way in your life in terms of having to quit dieting, giving up social life, giving up social events, even family and friends, in order to achieve a body. You no longer have to do that. And my goal is by the end of this program and by the time you get done with this course, that you understand all of the things that you need and you'll have all the tools for the long term. And that's why this is a one-time done deal. You're gonna get everything you need, all the tools you need in order to have long-term success. And the number one thing is sustainability. That's what I really want you to get out of this, is how to do this on your own so you never have to work with a trainer or a nutritionist again, unless of course you have to and you have the special needs for it. Let's dive right in. And the first thing we're going to cover is, what are macros? Macros are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. All foods have proteins, carbohydrates, and fats unless they are a no-calorie food or a no-calorie drink. Literally, you can get this by looking at the nutrition label. Micronutrients are going to be vitamins and minerals. Not all foods have these. So these foods are often called like empty calories, candy, foods that contain like sugar and a ton of calories with no micronutrients. Micronutrients is going to be your full panel of minerals and vitamins. And so the whole reason why tracking macros is going to be important inside of this program is going to be because macronutrients give us feedback. Since you have a calorie goal, that calorie goal is broken down into nutrients. And those nutrients comes from carbs, proteins, and fats, depending on the style of dieting you choose. We'll talk about that later. If you're tracking your macros and you gain weight this week, that just means we need to lower a couple of nutrients and the calories from that. If your goal was to gain weight and you didn't, then we increase your nutrients a little bit from specific categories. Typically, if you're trying to achieve weight loss, you keep your protein pretty high, or you don't really manipulate that, but you do lower your carbs and you lower your fats. You can choose either one to take away from. If you're doing like a keto style where you already don't eat carbs, you just take away fat slowly and lower that, just don't add in carbs, and keep your protein pretty high as well. Number one tip for success with macro approach is going to be have measuring cups, number one, and number two, and a scale, food scale. Those are equally important. The reason for these is going to be accuracy. So you don't have to hit your macros to a T every single day to like the gram, but do try to be within 5 to 10%. And how you make sure that you get within that range is weighing your food or scanning it into MyFitnessPal. Prepackaged foods already tell you what's in there, which is awesome. And if you have a food scale, you're just going to weigh your food and then put it into MyFitnessPal. It literally takes 20 to 30 seconds. That's probably going to be the hardest part of understanding nutrition, is going to be like finding it in MyFitnessPal, and even that is not that hard. Accuracy. Accuracy is going to be very important for our feedback. The reason accuracy is important is, let's say you report that you hit all of your nutrients like you're supposed to, and you hit your calories like you're supposed to, and you report to me that you did, but you still didn't lose weight. Then I need to go in there and bring down your calories a little bit from a protein, from a fat, or from a carb. If you hit all your nutrients, but you still snacked on the side, and you didn't report those snacks to me or MyFitnessPal, then what happens is you didn't lose weight, and it's probably because of the snacks or maybe overeating, and you didn't report that. So maybe you didn't need to lower your calories. So we're already going to lower your calories, and you might not have needed to do that. So if you did overeat or you oversnack, that's okay. It's going to happen sometimes. Just try not to let it happen all the time. And what we do from there is the next week, we'll keep the calories and the macronutrients the same, but we'll just be super consistent with tracking for 7 days. And we're going to look at your weight and how it fluctuates. So if you do drop weight without snacking, then we know that it was a snacking. And if you don't, then we know we do need to bring the calories down even lower. And so that kind of can be a little setback, but that's okay. We'll overcome it. Just try not to let it happen all the time. And I know it's going to happen sometimes. And if you way overdo it and you feel super guilty, let me know. And I have a couple of different methods that we can use to make up for it. But just try not to let that happen. That's a worst case scenario. So you have free range. You can eat almost anything you want to eat, basically anything you want to eat. As long as you go in there and you put in your portion size before you eat it, go ahead and have that. By eating healthier options and buying healthier options, you get more volume of food. For example, let's say you have 100 carbs and 100 protein you have to eat, and you choose to get that from 2 big old chicken sandwiches, right? It'll probably equate around 100 grams and 100 carbs. Or hypothetically, you can turn that into like 10 small salads and still get the same amount of nutrients. And the reason that knowing this is important is because it's going to help keep you fuller longer. So just kind of by canceling out foods that have a ton of calories in them and eating the healthier option more consistently, you're going to feel fuller for a longer period of time, which ends up, you are going to end up eating healthier choices and healthier food as time goes on, and you're going to slowly make that a habit, just by ruling out, like, do I want to eat a small portion of peanut butter, or would I rather eat, almonds and cheese stick and like a low calorie drink? You're going to go for the one that has more volume. Obviously, it's going to help keep you fuller longer and help sustain that hunger and keep it off. So same goes for buying groceries. When you go to the grocery store, try to get better options. You don't have to eliminate foods, just get the better option. Instead of getting like 100 calorie per sliced bread, get like a 40 calorie. Instead of getting regular thick cut bacon, get thin cut. And if you need like help brainstorming a couple different scenarios, a grocery list and things like that, feel free to reach out. We'll talk about it and we'll develop a grocery list for you and your goals. Different tips and methods is how you are going to find the most sustainable and forever method where you can eat any single food. So my point is, if you have a birthday party for a kid that you have to go to later in the day, and you know there's gonna be cake and ice cream and you don't want to feel judged for being on a diet, or you just don't want to have to give up cake and ice cream and those things, you don't have to. You're just gonna have to eat super healthy for the first half of the day, probably low carb, low fat. That way you have more allotted carbs and more allotted fats during that 2-hour span in the evening time, if that makes sense. This is something that I do on a day-to-day basis. I hate going to sleep hungry. And that happens when I have a huge fatty carb breakfast, a huge fatty carb lunch. I have no carbs or fats left for dinner, so it usually results in like a chicken breast with veggies and salad, like a very low calorie meal with high protein. So my recommendation is always have a pretty high protein breakfast, which scientifically proven helps keep you fuller longer, and a high protein lunch. And both of those meals, not a lot of fat and not a ton of carbs. That way for dinner, you can have a bigger dinner if you choose. You can still make happy hours. You can still make all those other things happen, which is great news for you. You don't have to give up your life. And that's the whole point of this program that I have put together for you, is you're not going to give up all the foods you like. You're just going to start watching portion control. That's what's going to be sustainable for you. And it works 10 out of 10 times as long as you track your food and you learn from this progress. And we build week to week. We talk about it, we review it, and we build off of that. So if you don't already have my FitnessPal downloaded, download my FitnessPal. Talk to me if we haven't got your calories and macronutrients already. And I have like a walkthrough process. I can walk you through it on plugging all those things in and just start tracking your food. And it's that easy to get started. Just remember healthier options, high protein options, low fat, low carbs if that's the style you're choosing. If you choose to do intermittent fasting, that's totally okay. What intermittent fasting is, it's just prolonging the time that you're not eating and you get more food within a specific window. This works, keto works. If it fits your macros, then this sustainable method works for all types of diets. So you can do keto, you can do paleo, you can do any single kind of diet that you want to do with this sustainable method. It's just all about tracking it. So for example, in keto, the only difference is you're not eating carbs. So you're eating your proteins and you're eating your fats. Both have calories, which are macronutrients. So you're allowed X amount of each per day. If you don't lose weight the first week of keto, we lower the fat and then we take away calories and we see what happens the next week, if that's the method you choose. If you choose intermittent fasting, let's say it's a 8-hour window, you're only gonna eat in the evenings after noon. So afternoon around 1 p.m. is when you start eating with this method. This is really good for people who have extremely busy schedules, on their feet, using their hands, interacting with people. So hairstylists, barbers, cells, whatever it is you're doing. If food is not like an option, intermittent fasting is perfect. You start eating at 1, you end at 8 or 9 p.m., and you get all of your macronutrients in that time. It's a little harder because you have to choose super high protein options, but it allows you to live your life how you want to live it on your terms while still hitting your goals and still seeing results. So, which leads me into the next one. You can do like Whole30, you can do Paleo. All of those diets are inside of a sustainable, if it fits your macros method. The most sustainable one that I've worked with and that I personally use is a flexible approach. So you don't cut anything out. You eat protein, you eat carbs, you eat fat, and what this allows you to do, it works 10 out of 10 times on vacations, in the airport, driving home, you haven't eaten all day. It works 10 out of 10 times because it allows you to get quicker access to snacks and gas stations, in the airport, in lines at the grocery store, at the fair. Like, no matter where you go, there's an option. If you think there isn't, shoot me a text and I'll show you that there's definitely an option for you to eat that food or still hit your goals no matter where you're at.